Good morning. Good morning.
How's it going? How you doing, Chris?
Doing all right. Just doing you can see the renovations that we're doing here.
Oh, nice, man. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. What are you what
Morning,
are you guys
everybody.
what are you guys doing specifically today?
So today we're actually going to be moving all the stuff out right now. It's my pops right there. They're going to be coating the floor with epoxy. That's what we do full time. So, floor prepped. All this was tile and it's pretty bad. So you can see all that. We're taking care of all
Nice. Cool, man.
that.
Awesome.
That's cool, Chris. Good morning,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, everybody.
Morning. We'll give it a couple more minutes for some more people to join up. I believe Chris is gonna hop on today and go more in depth on comping and whatnot. So he's gonna be joining us in about 10, 15 minutes. Until then, though, we'll just do kind of just some basic Q&A and the usual stuff. But we'll jump into that in like 2 minutes here. Let some more people load on in.
Dylan, were you able to check out some of those seller objection videos?
Yeah, I've been listening to them ever since you told me about them. So
How was it? How you liking it?
well, learned some good stuff. Most of the ones I've listened to so far are mostly related to the sellers wanting just a cash offer and just get it over with. I've actually not listened to a ton of pace videos before. Like I've always listened to Closers Cafe, and so I just listening to a pace video. It's like, wow, he's so direct. so so that's kind of been the main thing. But yeah, it's been helpful. I actually I don't really even know what to do, but from the ones that I have been calling, I do have it's a direct to agent, and the sellers are open to subject to, but I figured out they're at a 5.75 interest rate, and so I'm trying to figure out, if what could even be done at that rate. So
Yeah. And when looking at those high interest rates, it's very unlikely that it's going to cash flow. So in those types of deals, it's like you could still potentially wrap it, but if you're going to do a wrap, you want to be like, as crazy as it sounds, like 3% to 5% down.
in terms of like full all in kind of thing.
Yeah, because after paying for, like, if a buyer's agent brings the buyer to the table, that's 3% there. If you pay for closing costs, that's another 2%, and so slowly
There's
adds up.
Yeah, and there's also over 10,000 in arrears. So yeah.
Oh, dang. Yeah, that makes it tricky.
No.
That makes it really tricky. Where's that one at? What market?
It's near San Antonio.
Okay. So I'm guessing maybe like $200,000 to $400,000 house, maybe.
Yeah, it's 330. It's a 2022 build, so it's it's pretty new. It's
That'll definitely be
story, but yeah,
yeah.
For
That'll be
me,
trickier for sure.
Yeah. For me, it's interesting because this is the first time I've got this far into the process.
Well, that's awesome, man. That's great that you've gotten that far, and I'm sure that's a confidence booster and understanding the process better.
Yeah.
If it was in like a smaller market, because some of these properties that Alex and I bought recently, they had like 10% interest rates that we took over 9%, and they still technically like break even or cash flow, but those properties are dirt cheap, right? So when you have 10% interest on a $90,000 or $110,000 balance, that's going to be a lot lower payment than well, I should say you're going to realize that interest way less than you'd notice that interest on a balance that's double or triple that. So like a $300,000 home with almost a 6% interest rate, like Alex said, it's probably going to be hard to cash flow unless maybe it doesn't have an HOA and it's in a good populated area within San Antonio that you could maybe do like a pad split on it, rent by the room scenario. But definitely will be tricky though if you don't have any other options other than long-term rental or wrap.
Yeah, that was the first thing that I thought of was wrap, because that's really all I had known to think about. So, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely better than like the house that I live in. It's better than that, because I was like, man, this house is brand new.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing too is sometimes things just aren't a deal. Like I remember there was a lead we were looking at a couple days ago, Alex, where we were like saying they would probably have to pay us. How much would they have to pay us to take the house? Like 5 grand. And it was a new build just
Oh,
outside of like the Phoenix metro area. But I
okay.
mean, it bled like $1,000 a month as a long-term rental. It was on the outskirts, so you couldn't Airbnb it, you couldn't midterm rental it, you couldn't pad split it. Really your only exit there would be like a wrap for it. And essentially, I think it was close to a 6% interest rate or something like that, Alex, I believe. Um, but basically, like, what's the risk reward? If you can't find that wrap buyer soon, you're getting hit with all those holding costs that are pretty high. And
Yeah.
then if you have to pivot into another exit strategy, you don't really have one unless you want a long-term rental that's losing $1,000 a month. So there are some instances where it's like, hey, you need this house for damn near free.
Oh, yeah.
Just because like with that property there, um, basically we were saying like, okay, well, we're not going to pay the agent anything, like the seller's not going to get anything. But at the same time, that could be a better scenario than them doing nothing at all with the house and being stuck with it themselves. So
It was actually interesting because the agent, I mean, she was really cool because she says she's been taking some like classes on subject two, and like she had already told the sellers that subject two was probably their only way to go.
oh wow.
And I kind of just lost my train of thought, but yeah, so it was, I mean, it was kind of an easy call for me because I didn't really have to explain it or anything. So, and I just kind
Yeah,
of went right into that sort of conversation with her. So um, that was pretty cool. I think
that's
someone just
awesome.
asked if it's a VA loan. It's not a VA loan. Yeah. If in
Yeah.
case they were asking about something else.
No, I think
Yeah.
they're up, up.
Yeah. And I'm reading Jay's comment. A lot of deals are like that. Entry is so high and high interest. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing too we've noticed a lot is a lot of these deals, they're not going to work as long-term rentals. You're in a decent spot if they're breaking even or close to breaking even. A lot of these though aren't going to cash flow as long-term rentals. So there are definitely different exits you can do, but that's why a lot of people will say no HOAs, because if there's an HOA, not always, but there's always regulation and restriction. In most instances where a lot of people just want to filter out HOAs because they don't want to mess with, hey, there's a 30-day minimum rental restriction on here. So basically that wipes out Airbnb. There's also there could be some regulations from the HOA and also fluctuating monthly fees from the HOA that people don't like, because a lot of HOA fees sometimes are, hundreds and hundreds of dollars, where potentially if because I have family members that have kind of expensive HOAs out here in California, where all of a sudden, like last year, their HOA was 480, and then this year it's like 640, and they had an increase. So
Oh,
if
wow.
you have cash flow on a property, and you're like, cool, I have a couple $100 a month of cash flow, and then that HOA changes, there goes all your cash flow, and now you're breaking even or losing money. So a lot of people don't like that with HOAs. Yeah, unless it's a cheap one. Like if there's
20.
sometimes, and I don't know a ton about the HOA stuff, but sometimes in large neighborhoods, there's random HOAs for some reason, but they're super cheap. Like I think that deal in Colorado we assigned last month, Alex. I think there was like a $30 a month HOA on it, I think, right? Or no?
I can't
Maybe it
remember.
was the Houston one. I think it was the Houston one of those, but there was a really cheap HOA. Something like that probably isn't going to go from $30 to $400 in a month. It's more of like the compact townhouse or apartment complexes that have really weird fluctuations. Yeah, so a lot of people don't like HOAs,
Yeah,
and I'm
well,
definitely in the same boat.
I've actually ran into some of those, and something I never realized even existed. But some agents I've talked to, they say that the HOA is optional. Like, they can pay it, on an optional sort of basis, I guess. And that's maybe, they cut their grass or they can use
Uh,
the pool. I don't know, but because some of
Interesting.
them, I see and they're like, $20-$30 a month. So it's just like, oh,
Interesting.
didn't know that existed.
Yeah, some of them are terrible. Like I know there was a deal I was working on where you had to pay the current year HOA, and then you were also paying the year in advance HOA, and there wasn't any way around it. That was that condo in Corpus Christi, Alex. I
Mm.
remember a while ago I was trying to work on that.
Wow.
But yeah, yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll just kind of open up the floor now if anyone has any specific questions or anything they want to touch on. Like I said, we should have a guest coming on in here in a little bit. Chris, I know some of you have seen him before on here. We're going to go over comping, but just wondering if anyone had any questions here to kind of start off the meeting.
Yeah, preferably around comping. And then if anyone has any properties that you're interested in having us kind of underwrite or have Chris underwrite, um, send it in the messages and we'll take a look, or I could try to find some.
Okay, cool. Anthony, I don't know. Did you have your hand up? I saw it go down there. I don't know if something was answered.
Yeah, I put it up, and then Alex said, keep it about coffee. Really, I just got the list that you guys that I signed up for with you guys, and the very first property I looked at. So I just had a question real quick. Then I guess it was in Nevada. I want to say Las Vegas, and just looking at the numbers, from what I could tell, this is probably going to be a straight subject to, if anything, but it's like they are not going to get much if they sell it.
Yeah.
I think if anything, they were like equity was like maybe a little over 2,000 or something. So you figure out for all the fees and all that. I think on the sheet you guys sent, it says like offer to seller would be like $1,000.
Yeah.
But when I ran it through batch leads, it was showing that their mortgage was actually 510 was what they owed, and it's on market for 507. So that's something I guess I would have to confirm with the agent, because it looks like they're just upside down, like they're just going to lose money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in this situation, I guess I got kind of stumped right away. Was like, well, where do I go with this? As far as like the exit strategy on this one.
I would, even if it doesn't look like an exit strategy there from you looking at the numbers, those numbers from those sheets aren't always 100% accurate. There's always some discrepancy there. So I would still just call that agent up and just treat it like a normal phone call. And a lot of the times there are deals that may have literally negative equity. Like if the seller sells, they're writing a $10,000 check.
Yeah.
But just for them taking on the risk of sub two, and other people, of course, the market's somewhat saturated. Other people are coming in with sub two offers. They still might want 5K in their pocket at closing, even though there's negative equity. Like I've seen that pretty frequently.
Okay.
But then at the same time, if you're catching someone right place, right time, and not a lot of other people have presented this, it could literally be as simple as, hey, I know you're going to be losing money and writing a check on this typically. What if I just came in and I paid your commission and then I just took the payments over for the seller and they were relieved of the situation and didn't have to write a check? So sometimes that's enough too for people, but I would still just call it and treat it like any normal call and just be sure to confirm with the agent on the actual numbers. Because I mean, Alex, I know you would definitely agree on that those numbers aren't always accurate.
Yes. I always get the mortgage statement so that you could really have the exact numbers once you're like further into the deal.
Okay. And then the fact that it's a VA loan too. So again, I know those can be a little tricky from my understanding.
Yeah, with VA loans, mainly the main issue with VA loans is just entitlement. So depending on how much the previous home was and that mortgage balance is tied up, it could limit that person from purchasing another house with their VA entitlement if they don't have enough, getting another VA loan. It really just depends on where they're moving, how much entitlement they've already used, and some factors like that. I think Vegas could be a tricky one because I'm assuming 400, 500, $600,000 houses. If it's, at least a 3-2, you're probably in that range, 400 plus. So I'm trying to remember the entitlement that people receive. I know it's not more than 700,000. So then that could be tricky for them to go buy a new house in Vegas with any sort of VA loan again. So that is a holdup for some people sometimes.
Okay, yeah, because what I was looking at was it like I said, they're asking for 507, but even in the quick comps I did on batch leads, most of the houses that sold in that area were like in the maybe high fours, like 4.8, 489, as low as like 390 something. So even with that, I'm like, well, it doesn't seem like I don't know, like what, again, I'm thinking end buyer, right? Like what would they see from that? Because if other properties sold for a lot cheaper and support too. So it's a little bit bigger than some of the other houses that were comped with it. But again, just kind of maybe I'm thinking about it too much.
I would say, I would just call in. And I saw Austin asking a question in the chat. Should we underwrite every property on the list or only once they're interested in sub two? So I'd say maybe just to feel a little more confident and get a better understanding, it'd be cool to depends on your availability and time as well. If you're really limited on time, I would just say, just start ripping through these and making calls. If you do have some more time, I would also underwrite some of them here and there just to kind of get a better feel of, hey, this is where I maybe need to be at, and just practicing and going through the motions. But if you're kind of limited on time, I would say don't even waste your time on that. Like if I'm calling, I'm just looking at the property address and pulling it up while I'm on the phone with a seller or agent, just because we don't have time essentially to say, okay, this might not even be a chance at a deal here, right? But I'm going to spend 20 minutes comping and looking at all these comparables and seeing where I most likely need to be when we don't even know if the numbers are 100% accurate yet. So I would say just go ahead and call if you don't have all the time in the world. But if you're doing this full time and you have all the time in the world, it wouldn't hurt to comp a couple of them here and there before you call. But I would definitely say just pick up the phone and dial and really see if there's potential there before you start spending a lot of time crunching numbers and underwriting. And I mean, that's what Alex and I are here for. Typically, like you find that lead where someone's interested, and then we're doing the underwriting and really looking at it and seeing where we need to be for that offer.
Okay. Yeah, I had time yesterday, so I figured I've been under the weather, so I wasn't about to call anybody sound like crap yesterday. So I was just poking around and looking at the list, and I was like, oh, I got stumped on the very first one. But nonetheless,
Gotcha.
I agree with you guys. I'm gonna start making those calls and just getting through them and then get in touch with you guys. So thank you.
Awesome. Great, Anthony. Yeah. And I see Chris has joined. How's it going, Chris? Good morning. Good morning.
I think
You're muted.
I got it. How's it
there we
going?
go. Good morning, Chris.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing?
Doing good.
You good?
Doing good. So like I said, Chris was going to come in today. I know he came on like a week and a half ago before the holidays, and we were going to dive more in depth onto comping and things like that. I don't know if there was any sort of intro or anything we wanted to do beforehand. I'm sure a lot of you saw Chris before, or if you want to just give a brief introduction about yourself, Chris.
Yeah, guys, I'm actually a licensed agent in Arizona. I've been in the business in all different facets for about a little over 20 years. So I was a lender from 2001, 2009. Market crash, started flipping houses, negotiating my own offers on short sales with the bank, and doing like A to B, B to C, A to B buy it, B to C sell it, within using transactional funding on short sales. A lot of properties never even saw them, but made good money on that. But a lot of work, learned the hard way, kind of how to invest, and did a lot of stuff with auction properties. Around that time, my wife, we got licensed. Now, she's a broker, and I got licensed in 2013 and kind of been doing, so we got about, I don't know, 1,000 traditional sales under my belt for buyers and sellers, and probably, I don't know, 300 or 400 all different types of deals, sub to creative, whether they're creative, flips, buying holes, whatever you have it, on the investing side, and probably helped another 1,000 more do them as well. So that's kind of my background.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for that. Thanks for that intro there, Chris. Yeah, so I know we wanted to definitely dive more into comping and everything, and I know you wanted to kind of touch on that. I know you kind of had something ready to present on that. Should we go ahead and dive right into that now? Do you have everything kind of ready and good to go?
Yeah, no, we're good. We can
Awesome.
jump into it.
Cool,
And
cool.
I know I jumped in a little, after you guys started. I did hear Jack kind of talking about some of the stuff that I wanted to touch on, which was, right out the gate, is just that when you're really, you got to have a conversation with the seller or an agent before you jump into comping a property. Don't spend, honestly, guys, outside of maybe pulling an address up real quick on Google or on Zillow, don't spend any time digging through it. Don't try to understand and learn the property, because if you make that call and they don't ever pick up the phone, it doesn't matter anyways. You'll have wasted that time. Spend your time on the phone, get the conversation going, and try to find out what the lowest acceptable offer is. Did you guys talk about that at all, Jack, before I got on?
Lowest acceptable offer.
Yeah.
No, we didn't talk about that.
Okay. So yeah, your goal shouldn't be to figure out what the property is worth and what the value is going to be first. It should be to figure out what the seller is going to be willing to accept. Right? Because again, what you think the value is or what the after repair value is doesn't really matter if they're not going to accept an offer that's going to give you any room. So typically, I just wanted to very briefly touch on, have a conversation first, get all the details you can, understand the situation with the seller. And then it's really important to do your underwriting after you get off that call. right? That's when you
Yeah.
get into underwriting. That's when you dig into the numbers. That's when you go figure out, okay, you can even say, hey, yeah, sounds good. We might be sending an offer over. Bottom line, jump off that call and then do your due diligence. That's what I'm going to talk about, is how to do the due diligence quickly and swiftly. Also how to do it while you're on that call a little bit without getting, distracted with what you're doing on the computer or whatnot while you're, in that conversation. Because obviously I do understand the, wanting to feel like, you're knowledgeable enough to talk to the agent about that property, or the seller or the agent, whoever you're talking to about that property. But you can get a lot from just a quick look at it, without going deep into it. Okay. So I've seen people sit for 20 minutes staring at a property on a screen and then not even pick up the phone sometimes because they prejudge it. Right. It's an assumption. So anyways, so that's that. So, was there any questions like specifically up front that anybody had as far as like just general comping questions or underwriting questions that we wanted to talk about first?
As far as specific questions, if anyone wants to just kind of chime in, we do have a couple properties that people wanted to have comped, Chris. So
Okay, cool. Yeah, give me some addresses in the chat unless they're already in there.
yeah, let me resend them.
Okay.
We'll start off with the property in San Antonio, if that's okay. Also have one in California.
Okay. All right, let's see. So I see this one, we got 2406 Indian, is that Indian Frost?
Indian Frost or First? I don't know.
Okay, that's all right. We'll find it, right? So sometimes we don't even have the right spelling and streets and everything. It's all good. We'll get it. So, okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring the screen on here. All right, you're gonna have to give me access to share the screen, please, Alex.
And then we got another property as well. 1 second.
You gotta give me one in Phoenix, man. Come on, you gotta give me one in my market,
Yep.
right?
Let me find you something.
Yeah.
It's cool. You
And
should
I'm
be-
glad you mentioned that too, Chris, because logically it makes sense. But when I was starting out like a year and a half ago doing this stuff, I'd get kind of nervous before my cold call, right? And I'm like, okay, I want to know what I'm talking about. Let me look up the details, this and this. And then you're like 10 to 20 minutes in, and then you're like, okay, I'm picking up the phone, and then you call them and it just instantly goes to voicemail, and you're like, I just wasted 20 minutes of time.
Yeah, on top of that, that's exactly what you don't want to do. You can't do
Yeah.
it. You got it's a habit. You got to break if you have it. Don't get into it if you're getting started, right?
Yeah.
Like, so not to mention, if you do too much research, you're going to prejudge so much. You're not going to ask the questions. You're not going to
Yeah.
ask the questions about the property. You're going to miss details you should get because you're going to think you already know. It's okay to not know. It's okay. In fact, guys, you got to let them, they're going to sell you the property, right? Like if you let them sell you their property, they're going to sell you their property and tell you all about it. So simple question is, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about the property? Let them tell you, because you get them talking, you're building rapport, guys. If they're doing most of the talking, you're building rapport without even having to say anything. Right? So definitely don't overanalyze. I can't stress that enough. It's really important not to do it. And also, when you get off a call that went really, really well, don't high five yourself and run around the room doing a dance and be like, yeah, I got a deal, man, because you're going to get up and you're going to sit there and you're going to be cheering yourself on and you're going to sit down and you're going to spend 30 minutes analyzing that property and be like, oh man, this deal sucks. This is not a deal at all. And then you're going to have wasted the other 30 minutes. You could have been on more calls. So you need to also break it up to where you're doing your call session, calls, get out the phone, victory, great call. Yeah, cool. Let's go. Get on another call. Next call, right? When you're done, figure out how much time you got. I got 2 hours to make calls. Hammer calls for 2 hours. At the end, make sure you save yourself time to do your underwriting. So now you may have 3 or 4 instead of 1 to work on. And you can figure out, okay, these 3 do suck, but this one's a good one. This one's great. I'm going to pursue that one. Right. And I want to get on comps. I want to stick to the comps conversation here, but I do want to say that, it's okay to act very excited about a property with the seller or whatever your demeanor is going to be on that particular conversation. Engage with them and they can be excited. You're going to bring them an offer or whatever. If you're setting appointments, if you're, setting appointments for another call, whatever you're doing, just get it to the point where you're like, okay, we're going forward on this property in one way or another. Okay. And then once you do your underwriting, there's nothing stopping you from calling somebody back and saying, hey, you know what, I looked at the property. I got other questions for you. And it's okay to reschedule the next call because somebody else is more important that you can call at that time, if that makes sense. So, all right. But anyways, let's get into the comping side of it. So, all right, let's see. Go into copy that one. Okay, Indian first. Am I sharing right now? Yeah, here we go.
Not for us. Now you are.
Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right. Okay. By the way, I don't know how many of y'all use what browsers y'all use, but I use Arc. And so this is not an app that you're looking at, just so y'all know. This is a browser called Arc. It's Chrome, just with a different wrapper on it. Okay, so you can set up spaces, and mine's really complicated, so don't overdo it. But if you want to get hyper organized on your browser and not get lost in tabs, takes some getting used to. But this is probably my favorite browser because I essentially have my realtor space here, right? And I have my dispo space. This is for when I'm moving properties. And then I have my acquisition space. I have a shared space. I have a lot of different spaces. But at the end of the day, when I'm going to work on deals, I go in here and I've got all my tools lined up in one little tab. It basically essentially turns your browser into an app. So what I do right here, this is Google. This is just a Google search. So I just go to Google, put in the property address. This is the very first thing you should do. It's the simplest thing. I don't care if you use Privy. I don't care what tools and software you use for comps. The first thing you should hit is a Google search. Okay. And you can see mine is a Google search name, search address. This is what Arc allows me to do is I save this tab as a favorite. It's just Google. And then you can rename it. So I've renamed it search address comps so that it's almost like a visual reminder that that's where I go to first. Okay. So anyways, 2406 Indian First, Indian Frost, we'll find out. Okay. You do the Google search this way first because it's a lot easier to do this than it is to go in Zillow or Redfin and go find the property. You got it's all right here. The link's already going to be there where you need anyways. Okay. So do the Google search. Now, I personally prefer Redfin over Zillow. I think maybe and I'll go over that. I'm going to go into both, but we might have Alex do a little Zillow. I might do a little Redfin, but I like Redfin better where it's available for like comps without MLS or without any paid software sort of thing. PropWire is also a good one, so we'll go into that too. Okay, in a minute. But yeah, so first things first, you got to get your address pulled up. Okay. Generally, I'll look at Zillow. I'll click on it, even though I like Redfin for the numbers better. And I'll kind of just see, okay, what's his estimate? And this is your quick underwriting, by the way, guys. So your quick underwriting should be, okay, what does Zillow say it's worth? If it's not listed, then you're going to have a number on Zillow. If it is listed, you'll have to kind of scroll down and go into like the price history. We figured out that, yeah, definitely different areas, states are going to have different information available depending on what it is. But this one is off market. So we got a Zillow estimate of 319. So I'm writing down 319 for Zillow. Okay. Close that out. Actually, no, back it up. Okay. I'm actually going to pop that out here.
One thing, Chris, for
Yeah.
the property you would like me to pull in Phoenix, any specific city?
Oh, no, just
sold or listed?
on off market. Give me an off market.
Gotcha.
Give me an off market. Okay. So, all right. So I'm gonna go back here. I got my Zillow estimate. Then I'm gonna go check my Redfin number. Okay. Redfin says it's 306. And we'll provide a calculator for this too, guys. It's a little quick, easy calculator. Alex, I'm gonna give you a calculator to email out to everybody today.
Cool.
So that just a quick, easy spreadsheet. You can use the Google Sheet or Excel or whatever you got. Okay, so 306 is the Redfin number. Okay, I might go back and go look and see, I don't really care that much for realtor.com, but realtor.com says that this one is real estimates 316. So now I've got like an average. Okay. We can't rely on these for our numbers. We know that. But here's the thing. When you look at all three sites, and then again, I'll add in another one in a minute. When you look at all three sites and they're very, very close on the numbers, that's indicative that you're going to have probably they're going to be more accurate than not, if that makes sense. Because sometimes Zillow and all these guys can be off by 20%. But typically, when you look at the call it the automated value number, the AVM number on the major websites, and the numbers are all really close, you can kind of rely on it more. But when you see like you got a 350 and then another one's at 210, that's where it can throw you off pretty good. Okay. So you got to be careful on that, but it gives you it's just like an indicator, right? And for a second, I'll jump onto the other free that you guys should be using. Everybody should be using this as a free tool. Okay. No matter what. So PropWire. Okay. This is actually Jerry Norton's site, but it's like PropStream. It's just free. Okay. So
I have a
definitely.
question on that.
What's that?
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
I was actually told by somebody like the data for there is like super inaccurate. I thought they were capping, but I heard they're like, oh yeah, have you ever heard of anyone even say PropWire? Like, how do I know that that's even legit data?
Like which part of the data? Like the contact information,
like the
comps?
condition of the house, like being an absentee owner, like it's basically expired data is what the guy was telling me.
Yeah, and so I'm not advocating it for like data pulling lists, so to speak, but as a cropping tool and even a skip trace tool, like because sometimes if you if you're trying to find a phone number for a seller for example, there's multiple places you can skip trace for the phone number, but sometimes you get different data from different sources. So sometimes PropWire will have the right phone number for the person, and then like batch leads or other sites won't. So sometimes, there are times where I've skip traced that property like 4 different websites to find the phone number. Not every data source is perfect. So that's fine. Everybody's going to have their opinion on what works. And again, you got to use what you're comfortable with. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say for lists that maybe they are old. Maybe the absentee lists are, 3 months ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't rely on it for that, but I would rely on it for other things like what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So
Good to know. Thank you.
yeah. So I'm gonna go. Now this one doesn't see this one. Here's an example, right? This is one where it's not pulling up. So I'm gonna see if I can get it to find it. I was even double checking. I'm like, hey, wait a minute, is this Indian FRST? Indian FRST. Okay. Well, there's one of those examples, and that's not the bad data, guys. Okay. That is literally just something that happens. Sometimes you can't find properties on some sites. So I'm gonna try this one more time so if I can get it. And no, we're good. Okay. Let me do a login real quick and see if maybe that's the problem. Oh shoot, everybody's gonna see my password right now. So nobody's recording this, right? Okay. You gotta blur that out, Alex. Let me see. Okay, I'm in the other one. Give me a second, guys. Okay, we're gonna give up there. We're gonna quit. Okay, we'll come back to PropWire on another in a little bit. Okay. All right. Now let's go back down here. Okay, so anyways, we've already got three good options here for the numbers. I'm gonna go into Redfin on this one. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go down here and we're gonna say view comparables on a map. Okay, and this is gonna give us, we can obviously expand the map. These are all right in the neighborhood, which is helpful. Sometimes you get stuff that's crossing major roads. On this note, this is a good place to enter here. These are all in the neighborhood. Okay. I really don't want to go over here if I don't have to. In other words, if I got enough data if I got enough comps in the neighborhood, I really don't want to go over here if I don't have to. And I know some properties, some neighborhood, depends on where the property is, it's going to be impossible to do that. You're going to have to go further out. You can go for a real unique property. I might go 10 miles, but you start as close to the property as you can, and then you expand out and go back in time. So right now, with the market being a lot of up and down, as far as like the seasonality of the market is really hitting it hard. So you got to really look the last 3 months and then kind of almost like try to predict where it's going right now. So right now, also active for sale and how many days on market's really important too. So you kind of got to look at everything. We used to just look at closed for almost exclusively because we didn't care about the actives for a couple of years. It was really what's closed, and now you have to look at everything. Okay. But with that said, this looks like it has a lot of data inside the neighborhood. And what I like about Redfin is that it's really easy to look at it. So it's just right here in a list, and you can see, let's go back actually 1 second. This is our property. So this is last listed at 317. What is it? This is a brand new build. Okay, right? Am I reading that right? Did this just sell? So it did. Okay. All right. So are these all going to be new builds? Let's see. All right. Hey, can I ask a question? Who did somebody want to say whose property this is that we're looking at?
I'm trying to scroll up to find out who sent it.
That's okay. No, I'm just curious because obviously this is the address we chose. It's good to know a little bit of a story if we can get a little help on this. Remember the conversation before the comp, right?
Yeah, so this is came from Jay. He has some details as far as it being a potential sub 2.
Okay.
But
Yeah, that's what I figured based on the time that it, looks like it, time it's last sold. Jay, do you mind sharing a little tiny bit just so I can get a little background on it before we do the comps here? No problem.
I think this one was like supposed to be a sub 2 offer is what he
Okay,
was.
that's fine. Perfect. That's all I need to know. Thank you. Okay, so all right. So anyways, going back here. Okay, so back to the property. I just want to look to see what it looks like. Got obviously nice, a little dated on the flooring, but not bad. And guys, you gotta be careful, right? Because pictures can hide stuff, especially on newer houses. It's hard to tell the true condition. This is why you gotta ask. Like this carpet is probably looks better in the picture than it actually is. Worn out, but either way, okay. So good house, nice little yard. Okay, all right. Add some condition. Okay, so going back down the comps. Oh, sorry guys. One more thing. I gotta go look at the size. What is this? This is 2,300. Let me write this down. 2,348, 4 bed, 3 bath. Okay. All right. Okay, so this one is 2,200 square feet, 4 bed, 2 bath. By the way, this is a good time to mention this too. Bedrooms and bathrooms, don't think you have to compare a 3-2 to a 3-2. Okay. You can get away with comparing 2 bedrooms apart. So you can go you can compare a 2 to a 3, but you can also compare a 3 to a 4 or a 5. You just have to take into consideration if the square footage is similar. Think about it like this. If you're comparing a 3 to a 5, they're both single story. It's really more important to focus on like 2-story versus 1-story. If you can, try not to use a 1-story comp against a 2-story house because, and if you do, you have to understand that 2-story house is going to have generally going to have a value of about 5 to 10% lower than the 1-story because less people will want to or can live in it. Okay. So if everything's the same finishes, flooring, whatever, same square foot, same number of beds and baths, but one's a 1-story and the other's a 2-story, you're going to have a 10% different, 5 to 10% difference in value. Okay. With the 1-story being more valuable. Okay. So, don't really just use bedrooms and baths as and square foot as your comp. Make sure you're looking at that. But if you are in the similar square foot, but you have a different bedroom count, maybe you adjust, depending on the price of the house. A house under 400,000, you're probably adjusting 5,000 to 10,000 per bedroom. You know, so you might add 10,000 to the dollar value based on having a fourth bedroom versus a third. Bathrooms, 6 to 12, 6 for a half bath, 12 for a full bath, just plus minus. Because if you get caught up trying to use exact bedrooms and bath count, you're going to miss comps that you should be using to find your actual value. Okay. So does anybody have any questions on that? Or is that pretty clear? Or Jack or Alex, do you want to?
No, that's really good, man. Thanks
Okay.
for sharing
Alright.
that. Something I
Okay.
never brought up.
Can you repeat it for me one more time with the
Absolutely,
word
absolutely.
function?
So when you go to look at comps, okay, a lot of people will go and say, okay, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So I'm just going to go look at all the 3-bedroom, 2-baths around the area that have sold. People will go a mile away to find 3-bedroom, 2-baths with similar square foot, rather than just staying right in the neighborhood and grabbing a 4-bedroom or even a 5-bedroom and adjusting for it. So here's what I mean. Let's say, let's look at this real quick. I'm going to go, this is a 4-bed, 3-bath is what we're looking at here, right? So Indian First is am I still on Realtor? Give me a second. Yeah, okay. Making sure, I'm gonna get rid of Realtor on this. Okay, there we go. All right, yeah. So this property is a 4.2, it's a 4.2.5. You notice, by the way, guys, Zillow says it's a 4.3. Right? If you hover over it, you can see it's a 2-bath, 1.5 bath. But Zillow it tries to keep it simple and says that's a 4.3. It's not really a 4.3, it's a 4.2.5. Okay. So, anyways, let me go back in here. So what I was saying is that if you're pulling your comps, you can pull 4-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath house. You can use 2-bedroom houses for this property. Okay. You just have to adjust. Maybe when you're going from a 3 to a 2-bedroom, you're probably taking off like 15,000, or you're adding 15,000 for that to go from that 2nd bedroom to the 3rd. So if all things are equal, that's what I'm saying, is that don't get caught up in trying to find exact matched bedrooms, bathrooms, square foot. It's more important you find similar, close square foot, close bedrooms and baths, same level up and down, and within 10 years of the sale, if you can. Okay. Try not to make this confusing. There's a lot to it, guys. There's a lot to underwriting a property, like properly. I'm trying to keep this as simple as I can, but yeah, I'm just saying, I know there's a lot of people that you'll miss a lot of the comps you need. Okay. We've got a hand raise, Trisha.
Yeah, just for clarity. So you're basically saying don't only gear to beds and bath. Look for the square roots. So if you're doing your comps and you're on Redfin, you might see comps that are not just the same bedroom and bathrooms. So utilize the square feet to be able to determine if it's similarities, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Don't get stuck in 3.2 has to be compared to a 3.2. That's what I mean.
Thank
Exactly. Thank you for clarifying that for me. So yeah. So this is a good comp though, you know. So let's take a look here and really, oh, sorry. Back to Harvest Ranch. There we go. Okay. So this happens to be like a model match. So that's perfect. That's what you want, man. If you get 4 model matches, that's the best, but don't get stuck on it. Okay. So take a look. You know, I'd say I kind of just flip fast through pictures and I'm like, all right, overall general look and feel is probably really similar, right? I mean, it looks actually almost identical. So this is an easy one. Okay. You got a better backyard on the subject property. Okay. So the subject property, I don't know. You got to look at that and go, okay, that backyard versus this backyard. And again, this backyard right here. I mean, you can look at that and say, okay, what would someone probably pay for that yard versus this yard? Okay. I don't know, 15,000 more, maybe 10, 15, probably 15,000 more for that yard. Okay. So you're making a note. You're like, okay, backyard, 15,000 plus 15,000, at least against this particular property. Right. Everything else is about the same. So you can say, okay, this property sold for 292. Actually, that's the estimate. That's the list. Sold. What did this sell for? Last sold price was, yeah, last listed sold. Okay, sorry guys. One other thing. Okay, we're looking at a Texas property. Okay, does everybody understand the difference between a disclosure state and a non-disclosure state when it comes to real estate? Okay, so good, because a non-disclosure state means that the seller doesn't have to report what they bought the house for. Okay, they have an option. They can say at the end at closing, they can say yes or no, do I want to disclose my price? Okay, so and that can make it a little tougher because when you're in a market that's non-disclosure, Texas is a non-disclosure state. So you don't always see what the actual property sold for. You kind of almost have to guess at it a little bit. Okay, so it was listed at 295. Okay, you'd have to dig in a little deeper, go see like when, how many days on the market it was, and you're kind of like, in a way, you're kind of guessing. In a non-disclosure state, you sometimes need to incorporate the help of an agent that can pull comps in that area. Okay, and that's hard to do sometimes because agents don't want to work for free. Okay, and they shouldn't be expected to. So, but that can be a little bit challenging. So when we're looking at this right here, I can see it listed and sold at 295. I got to go, yeah, hopefully it maybe sold around there. Okay. So that house is at 295-ish. Okay. Plus and minus the positive and negatives from the other house. Okay. If we go to, let's go look again. Let's get it here, go back down. Okay. All right. And this one here, this is a 5-bed. Here's a good example for what I just said. This is a 5-bed, 2.5 bath. Okay. And I got to keep remembering this. Okay. We're a 4-3. This is a 5-2. Okay. We're a 4 2.5. This is a 5. This is a 5 2.5. This is what I was talking about. Don't worry about the bedroom count. It matters more about this square foot. Okay. So this is fine. You can use this as a comparable. All right. Looking at the details, your built is similar. I mean, obviously these are all going to probably be pretty similar. They're in the same neighborhood, right? Okay. So I'm going to go through, I'm kind of just looking, trying to see how it looks compared to the other one. I don't know. Some of it's in the eye of the beholder, right? It's a little bit of an opinion. But when I look at this one, it's very similar in condition. The marketing is kind of bad, right? The pictures were kind of bad. They're dark. It doesn't appeal very well. It's not staged at all. So don't get it twisted, guys. If these properties sold on the MLS and they were marketed poorly, that's going to affect the sales price. So it's going to affect your comp negatively. So that property, you can almost guarantee if it's not well marketed, it's probably sold for less than it should have, likely. Okay. Especially in the market we're in. Maybe 2 years ago, that's different because everybody's buying everything without even barely looking at it. I literally had a client one time that called me up and said, hey, I've been working with another agent. Can you help me? I've made offers on 24 houses. And I'm like, yeah, what are you looking for? She's like, 4 walls that I can add and a roof. Literally what she said to me. Okay. That's how crazy the market was 2 years ago. That is not the case these days. Okay. So anyways, so I'm looking at this overall, pretty similar house. Marketing's a little soft, a little weak. And then when I go to the backyard, we got a backyard. We don't even have a backyard. No pictures of the backyard probably means there isn't much of one. Usually you can't find Oh wait, there it is. Okay. Sorry. Didn't even look like it.
They were hiding.
Yeah, they were hiding. Okay. So pretty plain, right? So I'd say that this yard is probably what? At least 15,000, right? There's your 15,000 right there. Okay. So this house is bigger square footage wise by a couple hundred square feet. That's another thing too. Take a note on this. You're not going to take the dollar per square foot as face value against the comparable. So here's the thing. Here's what I mean. Okay. This is 2,300 square feet. This is 2,500. These are the 200 square foot difference. If you multiply the dollar per square foot by $200 a square foot or 200 square feet, you're like $25,000. Okay. The thing is, that house is not worth $25,000 more because it's got 200 extra square feet. It doesn't work that way, because here I'll show you exactly what I'm saying. If I go back to this one, this is $130 a square foot. The bigger one is 122. The bigger the house gets, the dollar per square foot is going to come down. Okay, if it's in the same neighborhood. So don't start multiplying dollar per square foot to try to figure out your value either. Okay, what you do is I do what appraisers do. Okay, an appraiser on a house under 400,000, 500,000, probably going to use $60 a square foot for size difference. Okay, probably about half the dollar per square foot. You could be safe with that. Cut this dollar per square foot in half. Use that as your difference. That's a quick math difference for the size difference. So on this one, we're going to say 200 square foot is about maybe $60, $65. So maybe use $60 a square foot, and we're going to take 12,000 off the price. Okay. So I'm basically, guys, taking this, right? I just want to be, explain this. So this house probably sold, we got a guess in Texas that it sold for about $315. Okay. If I subtract $12,000 for square foot, I'm at 303 now, 303,000. But then I've got a $15,000 better backyard. So now I'm back to 318. This house is bigger. My interior is nicer. It's marketed better on the other one. Okay. The lot size probably looked like it was a little bigger. I didn't check that right this second here, but lot size, let's see. Lot size is the same. Identical lot size. Okay. Just look bigger. The marketing. So maybe I'm taking 5,000 or 10,000 off for bad marketing. I mean, in reality, this smaller 4-bedroom house is probably worth, I would say, if I'm using that one those two comparables we just looked at, I'm going to say that one is let's actually go. Sorry guys, let me check that one more time. This is 295.
And one thing, Chris,
Yeah.
Are you factoring in the date it sold? Like, how does that play a role when you're coming up with these numbers?
Well, so yeah, the further back you go from the date that we're at, further back in time you go, the less weight you got, the more you got to pay attention to what changed in the neighborhood sense. Okay. What changed in the market in that particular area sense. Okay. So it depends. You have to look and go, here's a good place to look at Zillow for. You go, what did the neighborhood do? What's this? This is what one of the things I might use Zillow for, even if I'm using Redfin for comping. Okay. The Zestimate history. It's not going to tell me the number. I don't care about the number as much as I care about how much did it change. Okay. So since June, there we go, right there. We got a 315 in June. It's been flat. You see that? So I'm like, no, I don't really care that much. June is the same as today. We could go deeper, Alex, and say, hey, let's talk about the seasonality of the market in general. But I don't think we should go there right now. It's going too deep. Okay. But as far as that goes, that's a good way to look. Okay. Has the market changed much since June? Not really. So I'm not going to put any weight to it on this one. If this is jumping up and down, I got to go, okay, well, how much did it change? Now, guys, this is what I'm talking about. I can spend an hour and a half on a comp. I can spend 5 minutes on a comp. I'm going to feel more accurate when I do my deep analysis on it. And that's what you do once you actually you're pretty sure you got a deal you're working here. Okay. You don't need to worry about all that when you're going close. You just need to get a quick look at, okay, generalized condition the same. Yeah. Backyard, nicer or better. Okay. Yeah. There's some differences there. Square foot, a little different. Yeah. Differences there. Interior condition. Okay. So your hot buttons are this: interior condition, backyard, overall upgrade, look and feel, flipping through the pictures, and the marketing that the property received when it was sold. Those 4 items are your quick look that's going to get you past the gatekeeper, your own gatekeeper in your head pretty easily to where you feel like you can go. Feel like you got a number. Okay. And then you got to look at it and say, okay, what was the money? What's the number that the seller seems like they're going to be willing to take? is there enough of a spread there to make sense out of it? Or if it's sub 2, I mean, sub 2, you can be a little more liberal because like this one, I'm gonna, you know, I don't know how much money they put down on the property, but I'm imagining it's probably, you know, there might be some good room there, but if I'm looking at when it was sold, maybe the rate's not that great. I'm just guessing. But at the end of the day, you know, you need to be really accurate, but not until you have a deal in your hands.
Well said.
Okay. So super important to be accurate. You don't want to go chasing, but you don't want to chasing tails. But again, this is why the conversation is way more important than the comp, but you got to have the comp because you got to know the numbers, right? So kind of the thing. So yeah, so let's look at one more on here as far as this comps here. This is actually what I would call a very easy one because they're so similar. Okay. So here's a 3, 2.5 in the neighborhood. This is all the way back in March. I don't have data from March, but it seems like this market has just been kind of steady, stable. So I'm not going to worry too much about the fact this is all the way back in March. This is a 290, 3-bed, 2.5 bath. Don't care. I don't care that it's a 4-bed versus a 3. The square footage is about the same. Okay. So, yeah, it can be a little more stable. And actually, you know what? You got Redfin's estimate too. Can help you with that too. There you go. And guys, keep in mind, these websites change so frequently that one day this will be here and then like 2 weeks later, it'll be, you can't even find it.
And then
Okay.
there's a 1 year and a 5 year there, Chris. I don't know if you've noticed.
Oh,
So
there you
that's
go.
how it
Yeah.
shows.
I've never actually used this on Redfin, to be honest. Okay. That's a good little tool right there. But yeah, you can see it's pretty stable, like we saw on the other one, right? All the way back. Okay. So again, don't really care. Yeah, generally speaking, you wouldn't want to use a comp from 9 months ago, but guess what? In this neighborhood, you could. So it's all subjective. It depends, right? Let's look at our pictures. Okay, we got Formica counters, we got funky carpet, we got linoleum floor, we got cabinets are okay. Compared, I'm just thinking back to our subject. Marking's not great. Carpet probably needs to be replaced. If you could see the paint better, it probably needs to be painted. My guess is there some of these walls are stained up and marked up. Just can't see it in the pictures. Again, that subject is way nicer. Here's what's kind of cool though. When you almost want to have if you have the better house that's similar in size, you're generally speaking going to get a better deal. Because if you got a bunch of poorly marketed half done backyard compared when I'm using that term loosely, but half done backyard, no patio. There's no patio here. I mean, there's no one, you're just going to go play in the grass is about what you're going to do out here. Right. And you might sit on the AC unit, if you get tired. So this is not an inviting backyard, but it's grass and hey, kids can run around out there, whatever. But when you're looking at this subject property stands out against all these comps to me. Condition wise, it's got better backyard. It's got more upgrades inside. This one sold again for 290. The only thing I'll say about time on this, Alex, is in March, we know we're in the hotter time of the year. That is the one thing, right? Just generally speaking, March is a better time of year to be selling than say November, okay, or December. So, but don't overthink it. Not too much weight. I'm going to say that again, we got our 15K on our backyard here. Size is the same. Interior condition, maybe 10. You got granite versus Formica, so maybe another 5,000 for the kitchen being nicer on ours. You got a $30,000 difference. I'm at 320. This property right here, I'm going to say this property right here, that our subject property is probably 3.25 right now, even though Redfin says it's 306. Okay. So if that's, if 3.25 value makes sense to you on this deal, then yeah, go get it because you kind of can get it. It's not gonna be too hard to justify a lower price based off what the other houses have sold for. Okay. There's so much to cover in comps. Is there anything else I can get more clarity on? Is there anything else I can go over that would help, you think, Alex?
No, that was really, really in depth on a deal. And that just kind of goes to show you, like, if you really want to make this complicated, you can. If you want to be short and simple, you could just gather the estimates. Yeah,
Yeah.
the number was 325, that we feel comfortable. And if you're looking at the estimated sales price, you're just taking basically that number in between. Not to say that that's how you should be.
No. Yeah, but you do, that's what I mean, my first look at a property, I take those two and I average them out. I actually stick them on a spreadsheet. I average the numbers out from the automated values, and that gives me at least a baseline without having to think about it.
Exactly.
Like I don't have to worry about what the true value is yet. And I need to worry about that when I start actually getting into a deal. Right? When I start to write a contract, that's where if I'm writing a contract, if I'm taking the time to write an offer, I better know my numbers for sure. Other than that, I got to have a glance. Okay. It's like a rough estimate, right? So use the averages to get your ballpark, do your quick look through your pictures and your sizes and kind of like, okay. And that's what you got. And don't waste 45 minutes on one property when you don't even know if you got a deal yet, for sure.
Yeah.
Stay out of it.
One thing
Go ahead, Jack.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say one thing I wanted to add, Chris, was so it's weird, like a lot of the people that were kind of teaching me a while ago when I was doing this is a lot of people use price per square foot, but I know it's not the most accurate way, like you were stating. And like one of the big takeaways I got was which I already knew. I didn't have an exact number the way I did it, but of course, like the higher you go in square footage, the lower that like you were saying, for the additional square footage difference when it's an increase, take like 50% of the price per square foot. You were saying something like that, I believe.
Yeah,
That's a nice way to do it, because I never had an exact number I would do it. I'd be like, oh, if this one's significantly larger, well, I know you can't use the exact like price per square foot, but we'll just take a decent amount off of that. So that was a good takeaway. That was really in depth.
Yeah, I could give you levels. Under 400,000, you're going to use 40 to 60 a square foot. Over 400 to 800,000, you're going to use like 70 to 110. And then over that, you could be in the $200 a square foot difference. But the quick and easy way is to cut that dollar per square foot in half and just use that as a number to compare the sizes, for sure.
Gotcha. Cool.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Yeah. And so an easy, and again, we'll share some more stuff on this, but let me go actually grab one thing here for you guys. I know we're running pretty much wrapping up here in a minute, aren't we?
Yeah, whenever you're done.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I can go longer. It's up to you guys, whatever works for you.
Yeah, I don't mind going a little.
Same
All
here.
right. So, as far as let me pull something up here for you guys. You know what? I'm just going to share my auction list real quick, guys, so they can kind of see what I'm talking about on the averaging part. So give me a second here. All right. Okay. So this is like last month. Okay. But if you see here, these are all deals in my market right here. Okay. And sometimes they're being daisy chained by other people. So whatever, these are all wholesale deals. All right. This was back from November, October. But that's what they're asking. There's Zillow and Redfin. I just have a calculation and a spreadsheet that gives me the quick look at it. And I take the average price compared to the price, and it gives me a spread, and I look at the ones that are better. Okay. So it's that simple. You actually can literally just have a spreadsheet with 4 columns on it, price, or 5 columns: address, price, Zillow, Redfin, PropWire, Privy, whatever you like, wherever you like to get your quick number, PropStream, whatever. Okay. Plug those numbers in and have it give you a calculation. Okay. And you can Google how to even create that if you don't know. I suck at Excel, by the way, but I can Google stuff and figure out how to do it. Right. So having a quick calculator, but that's what I'm saying. We could build a really quick calculator that we could distribute if you want, Alex, pretty easily. It'd take me about 30 minutes to do it. That's real, just super simple. That makes it where they can plug in the address, plug in the address and the average numbers for a quick look, make a very simple, easy calculator. So, but yeah, that's how I look at my quick look, man, because I don't have time to spend what I just did. 30 minutes on that property? Way too long. If I'm trying to crush through deals and get as many contacts as I possibly can.
That should kind of be done probably. I mean, you should have a pretty good understanding where the number needs to be before you get it locked up. but that type of analysis, that's something you're probably doing once you're locking up the deal, right, Chris?
What? Which one? The deep one, the one that I just went through?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's like where you want to go when you're like, okay, I really, really need to know what this number is before I make a mistake on my contract.
So before, like right before this is like your final underwriting, you're like, okay.
Yep.
After this, I'm sending out the contract, is basically.
Yeah, but see if my lowest acceptable offer, so the number that the seller's willing to, the best number I hear that I think I can get for the property, that sometimes you can fire it off. I mean, if you can quick look and you're like, okay, yeah, we're cool. Like we're so low, it doesn't even matter.
Uh-huh.
You fire off an offer. Otherwise, yeah, you gotta dig in deep. I have one right now I'm working on in Lake Havasu that, I mean, it took me a week because it's a tricky property. It's like lake view and, you know, like the some comps are on golf course and some have views and some don't. And they're all kinds of, like, it's almost like every house looks is like custom in the
Yep.
whole city. Okay. It took me about a week to feel good about sending a contract last night. Okay. And I cut the number by 30,000 when I sent the contract and I already have it signed by one of the parties. So we talked about 710. I sent an offer at 680. I'm already got one half has already signed the contract. Right. But I would have offered, I was originally going to send them a 710 contract and realized, no, if I do that, it's just gonna be just a little tight.
I got a question. You were talking about the price per square foot and cutting it in half to compare if there's a different price per square foot. Can you
Sorry.
flesh it out? Can you like show us what that might look like?
Yeah, it's really just the math. It's really just like the better way to do the quick math on it. So here, let me do this for you guys. Let me go with that. Give me a second here. I'll pull it up on my screen. Excuse me. Let me get this. All right. Let's do like a quick note, I guess. Okay. So let's say we have 2,500 square feet. This is too small. Can everybody see that? Or we're good?
Yeah.
Okay. 2,500 square foot. Do real simple math here. 2,500 square foot versus 2,300 square foot. Okay. Selling for 100. I'll make that bigger. Dang it. Yeah, that's not big. Let's do it like this. Selling for 110 to 120 per foot, right? That's what they're selling for. Okay. I'm gonna go, okay. I'm gonna say, okay, 110 to 120. Half of that's about 55, 60, 50, somewhere in that range. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. I'm gonna say, all right, maybe I'll use $55 a square foot. So equals $55 square foot. All I'm doing is going 2,300 minus 2,500 equals 200, which is the difference in size, right? Okay. And then I'm multiplying that by $55 a square foot. Okay. So that is 10,000. That is 11,000, I think. Okay. So now I'm saying, okay, if my 2,500 square foot house sold for $100,000, then I am subtracting 11,000. All right. So basically equals 89,000. So if everything was all equal, the condition, upgrades, the paint on the walls are the same color, they had the same dang furniture in the house, the same guy took the pictures. Okay. Then that is how I'm going to come up with the difference in value between this 2,500 square foot house and this 2,300 square foot house. See,
Gotcha, thank you.
you see how off it can be though if I use this. If I go in there and say, okay, 110 on 200 square foot, that's 20,000. I'm going to be I'm 10,000 off. That could make or break my deal.
Yeah, this was really helpful to draw out for us.
That felt super rough doing that right there, by the way.
It was good. It was good.
Hold on, let me just write this out real quick. But I hope if that was clear, then is that clear? Does that answer the question?
That
Yes,
would
that
be the
definitely does.
23.
Thank you.
That'd be the 2,300 square foot selling for the 89.
Right, because it's
Yeah.
smaller, right? You're just gonna
Smaller,
take the
yeah.
bigger square foot at the factor minus the smaller square footage. And then that, so you know, what's our number? Our number is 11,000. So half of the square foot, half of the dollar per square foot times the difference in square foot is 11,000 bucks. So I just simply subtract that house sold for 100. So I'm taking that $11,000 off, meaning my smaller house is worth 89, assuming everything else is equal.
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay. And if my backyard's better, but guess what? Right? If my backyard, I'm just giving you the straight up from the example we just did. If my backyard is nicer by visually $15,000 by looking at it, hey, I'd pay 15 grand more for that probably than the other. Okay. Then my smaller house is actually worth 89,000 plus 15. So my smaller house is actually worth 104. So even though my house is smaller, it's actually worth more, right? Because my backyard is better. So now my 2,300 square foot house is worth more than my 2,500 square foot house because it's got a nicer yard.
And also garages and things like that also can add or subtract to the price, right? If there's no garage, it would subtract to the price.
A good, quick, easy rule. I would say like use $10,000 for a 2-car garage versus a 3-car garage. Use 10 grand.
10 grand. Okay.
Every garage bay, use $10,000. 1 to 2-car garage, 10 grand. And that's, again, it's subjective a little bit, guys. So, but I'm talking like, and if you're in that $250 to $450,000 house, like the kind of average price range, I guess you could say, that's probably a good factor. You know, if it's 100, if the properties are 100 grand, you might use 5,000 for a garage, right?
Yeah.
It does depend. It's like, as the house gets more expensive, you got to ratchet that adjustment up a little bit, right? So like if I'm looking at granite counters versus Formica counters, I'm probably 5 grand automatic, boom. Nicer, really, you know, more luxury house that can get crazy. Your numbers can get really like, you can start adjusting a lot, but basic homes, simple kind of average homes, you're just doing, you know, it's really 5 or 10,000 difference for most things.
Yeah. And what about, because I know this is kind of a big one. What about if the house is on a public street?
It depends. If it's on the front,
Yeah.
back, okay. So
Like, let's just say it's near a freeway, like the freeway is right in front of the house.
next to a freeway.
Yeah.
Same thing. The price of the home is going to determine the how much you're going to adjust. Okay. Like the higher the price of the home, the more money you got to adjust for it. But I'll give you this average. So if you're comparing it to one that doesn't have freeway noise to one that's like getting ran over every night. Okay. I mean, on an average home price, you might be $30,000 difference.
Okay.
Okay. I've lived not next to actually, that's not true. My very first house was right next to a freeway behind a sound wall, and I barely heard it because they had a sound wall up. But in a house I lived in not that long ago, I average a house every 2.5 years, by the way. So I'm a serial mover. But my kids love it. It's like we're in the military, but we're not, right? So, but anyways, the house I lived in last actually was about 1.5 miles away from the freeway, but if I was outside in my backyard, I could hear it, even though it was 1.5 miles away, because it's just the way the sound carried in that area. My point is that you got to be very careful with next to major roads, next to freeways, stuff like that, because it can be a big jump. Definitely don't take it lightly. Be ultra conservative is what I can say on that. But yeah, I would say 30 grand on an average home price. But if you're in like the 600,000-700,000 range, you might be 75, you might be 100 grand if you're next to the freeway.
Got it. Kind of
Okay.
making sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Pools are going to be, everything varies on the home price, but a pool, that's probably even varies per market. Like in Phoenix, I used to use $12,000 for a pool and like say a $250,000 house. Now I'm like 35 because it costs a lot more to build. So it costs you 70, it's worth 35. It used to cost you 35 and it was worth 12.
What about a hot tub?
Hot tub, if it's above ground, $1,000, it's not worth anything because people just don't want to move them.
It doesn't change the appraisal value.
Not above ground. In ground is maybe like 3,000 to 5,000 on an average home price. So if you got a pool if you got an in-ground pool with an in-ground hot tub, you might be 35 for the pool, 5 for the spa. Okay. Above ground pools are worth nothing. Solar is worth nothing unless it's owned outright. Okay, so solar has a loan on it or a lease. It's not worth anything to the house at all. Okay, that's probably a big one, depending on where you guys are calling. Right. So, and yeah, in fact, on that note, if it's got a loan, you'd probably, that's got to be transferred. You'd probably want to take 5K off for that, because it's going to be harder to sell. You're going to have resistance because it does make it harder to sell the house. If there's a loan on it, because someone's got to take that over. And sometimes I've had situations, guys, where I had a solar with a loan on a property where the solar company wouldn't accept the buyer. I had a buyer with like 180,000 a year income on a $400,000 house. He had one little weird mark on his credit. He didn't have enough credit. Had great, totally qualified for the house. Literally killed the deal in Buckeye. Okay, so loan solar can be a problem. Lease solar is a little easier. Leases are easy to transfer. It's the loans that are a problem. And you got to be real careful, because there are some, I've ran into a couple situations lately where they're with a credit union. The loan was with a credit union, and they won't even let anybody assume it. Like, it has to be paid off.
Wow.
So I have one in Tucson that had a $40,000 loan with a credit union. Sorry, $49,000 loan with credit union in Tucson, Arizona, that he's stuck. He literally has to pay off the loan to sell his house. Or someone's got to get another way to pay. Essentially the buyer would have to pay it, but it's a $50,000 hit. Okay.
Juanine has had their hand up for quite a while now.
Okay, what do you got?
Hello, hi, sorry about that. Yeah, I wanted to find out about the comping. Like, if we're new to doing comping, is it good to follow like the Zillow when it has similar properties as a comp?
Yeah, you can use whatever site you feel comfortable with to see the other values of homes and what they've sold for. My preference is Redfin personally, if I'm comping like just a free site that has good data. Okay.
Okay.
A lot of people prefer Zillow. I just happen to like the flow of Redfin a little better. To me, feels more MLS-y to me. And I'm an agent, so I'm used to MLS, right?
Okay.
But yeah, you absolutely. And the number, the Zestimated number, and the estimated sale price, and the realtor.com true value number, and all these automated numbers, that's your first stop. That's what you use as your quick look. That's how you save yourself a bunch of time in the beginning to get an idea of what the property is worth.
Okay, now we start to do all this when we have a lead that we maybe, is interested in the sale, then we take on that.
Yeah, you've got a seller that's like, yeah, I want to sell my property. We want to get it done, depending on, there's so many variances there, depending on the conversation you have. If you have a motivated seller that wants to sell their property, that's a quick way to get your initial number to see if you're even in the ballpark.
Okay.
Yeah, you take these numbers and average them out. You'd say, okay, this one's 319, we got a 306, we got a 309, it's about 310. You can kind of work off that 310 initially. As you get further into it, to where it looks like, hey, I might go into a contract here because we're going to make an offer. So if they're like, look, I want 330 for my house, and you're seeing an average of 310, that might probably not be worth your time. It might be, depends on what kind of strategy you're using, but it's probably not, right? But if they say, hey, I'd take 270, and you see the comps are averaging at 310, you might want to work on that, because in reality, this house averages the 310 on the little estimates here. Okay. But it's really, we figured out by doing a little bit more underwriting after, when we know we have something we're working on here, we now figured out that, hey, it's actually 325. So that's better. That's 15,000 more that we didn't think we had.
Yeah, and I just want to add in real quick, like usually what I'll say is like, hey, Mr. Seller, investors are typically paying anywhere from this to this. Is that, kind of a ballpark range you'd be comfortable in?
Exactly.
Just to kind of get them to be where they like kind of not give you a number, but like be like, yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
called anchoring to the lowest price. And that's perfect, man. I love that because that's actually exactly what we do. We say, yep, we say, hey, look, other buyers are paying X to X for for the similar properties as yours. Are we even close to something's gonna work? Just like you said, that's perfect. That should be your question every time when you're talking to a seller, by the way.
yeah, never throwing out an exact number.
Because if you get stuck anchoring to value, if you get stuck anchoring to the value, the high number, you're done. You're already cooked because now you're using this high number and trying to come down. You want to start here and come up if you need to.
Okay.
That's
Now,
another
one
reason
more
why it's probably a bad idea to look at comps because you might make a different offer if you look at comps first.
thing. But should I have an exit strategy when I'm talking to them already?
You can, yeah, you can. You can be kind of. Are you saying should you have an exit strategy when you're talking to them already?
Like, should I know if this is a good buy and hold or long-term rental? Should I know that while I'm
No,
talking?
not really, because you want to
Okay.
you want to get through your full conversation. You want to ask all your questions. You want to understand why they're selling it if you can. You want to figure out. You want to see if that anchor to the low number. That's the lowest acceptable offer, by the way. That's what I call the LAO. Sometimes people use MAO, which is max allowable offer. I don't like max allowable offer. I like lowest acceptable offer. So no, you don't need to worry about your strategy. You just need to worry about what's going on, what price they're going to be to take. Then after you've had this great conversation, you got all this information, like, okay, cool. You know what? I'm gonna go check things out. I'm gonna get back to you. I think we're gonna be able to make an offer on this one. You don't have to know if you're gonna make an offer on it yet.
They're gonna tell you what they need.
Yeah, like the first call, you should really only need to know the phone number, the address, and maybe have a couple pictures.
Right.
Okay.
And a Redfin or Zillow estimate is all you should really need to know. Just so you know that they're in a pretty good ballpark if they do throw out any numbers.
Let me show something here real quick too. Again, here, okay. Guys, if you can, like literally ignore everything on this except for these lines right here. Okay. All right. Look, this one right here. Let's see. These ones are all pretty close, but look, we got a $40,000 difference in the estimated number. Okay. I'm going to show you. There's going to be worse ones in here. Let me see. All right. So not too bad, actually. 294, 360, 367. I'm trying to find a bad one here. 385, 342, 278, 295. Oh, wow. Actually, these are all, you see, they're all pretty close. Every once in a while, you'll have like a 385, and this will be like
290.
Yeah. Or even worse, shoot, 180, and that's like, okay, where is this property? Right. That spread's definitely, that's going to be a weird one. You got to figure that out. That doesn't mean it's active. Now you know that, okay, your little ballpark number just ain't going to work. But these are all, like I said, these are all wholesale deals. These are all real wholesale deals about a month and a half ago. Okay. That we have analyzed on here.
These are wholesale deals for sub two.
No, these are just properties that were available to buy off market that a investor already have under contract that are signing. So this is just a list of properties that day that were available to buy in my market. So yeah, don't worry about that part right now. It's really more this part that I want you all to focus on, that we use these two numbers to figure out if we should waste our time even talking about this property. The thing is, this one's already under contract. I know that if I call this person that has this contract here, I can buy this house for $199 if I want it. The point is, that's how we make sure that we don't spend time working on these ones down here. Does that make sense? Because if I just look at a house and I'm like, oh, okay, well, what will they take? What will they take? Well, this wholesaler is selling this property for $385. Okay. But I could spend 20, 30, even this is actually a good example here. Even on this note, I could spend half an hour trying to analyze this property in my name. Let's say I live in this neighborhood. I'm like, oh, that looks like it might be a deal. And I'm like, oh, 385, that sounds pretty good. And then I don't have this like quick number from Zillow and Redfin. I might spend half an hour to figure out that's not a good deal. I hope that's clear, but you just want to use the Zillow and the Redfin estimated price is your best friend to get a quick number on your property. It's just, if the gap is large, be more careful is all. So if the number is $50,000 apart between the two, it might matter. Okay, so I don't want to go on that anymore. I just want to kind of make a point that be careful if the number's got a big gap. Okay.
Really quick question back about the solar panels. If the seller's solar panels are owned outright, how does that affect the price?
Depending on the size of the solar system, what is it? I don't even use the site anymore that you can calculate the value.
Let's say 10 to 20,000.
Yeah, on an average house, it's $10,000 to $20,000. Depends on how big. If it's a 3,000 square foot house, you got an own solar system, and they're like, "Oh yeah, my bills are like barely existing. I barely have a bill." It's probably a $20,000 value. You got to ask a question, right? Oh, the house has solar. Cool. Is it paid off? Oh, it is. Great. Do you know what their bills are in the summer, in the hottest time of the year? That's a good. You want to know that for sure. But figure own solar is going to be between 10 and 20. You could get away with a 10 and 20 rough estimate.
Solar really sucks, man. I used to sell solar and work for a solar company, and they always made it sound like it's gonna, which I knew it didn't as much as they said, but hey, it's gonna increase the value of your house. It's gonna be so much easier to sell when you tell people like, hey, you're locked in at this low rate for your energy bill. Where
Yeah.
like all the realtors and everyone I talk to, it's kind of the other way around.
Yeah, I've done. I'm in Arizona. I'm in Phoenix, right? So I've sold probably over 100 properties with solar, and it is challenge. It does add an extra layer of challenge, and you'd think by now everybody would understand it, but I still find myself explaining to other agents, why it's a benefit, even though it's looked at as it's not. So, a funny story. I'm going to throw one of my agents on the bus. I have an agent that's been with me for 9 years that. She used to be my ISA. She used to call, just to basically answer leads and hand them off. By after 2 years, she got so good that she was selling 40 to 50 homes a year with me to buyers. She went on a long-term maternity leave, year and a half, came back into the market last year. Her uncle owns a solar company. She's selling solar full-time and sold 3 houses in the last year. And I'm like, you're making art. So that's just the flip side of that right there. Yeah, solar is not ideal. I don't think anybody should be buying solar at all unless they're gonna be in the house for at least 10 years, and nobody knows they're gonna be in the house that long. So kind of rough, right?
It's a comfortable scam.
Do we have time to run one more
Comfortable scam.
It makes you feel comfortable.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
We have time to run one more property.
Do we, guys?
It's really up to you, Chris, and everyone else here. Because I mean, we still have 40 people here, so obviously, thanks again, Chris, for this. Obviously, everyone's finding value in it. So
No problem. Yeah,
I had a nice breakfast. I'm chilling. I'll be here. I don't know about
I
everyone
guess
else.
as long as you're here, then and Alex is here. I mean,
What about you, Chris? How are you doing?
I'm fine. Let's go. Yeah, what do you got?
Okay, I got lost in the chat. Hold on.
Let's try to do this one though a little bit faster, Chris.
We'll do the fast version on this one. We'll do the quick and easy version.
The 44714.
Cody, do you live in California?
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Alex, Cody was at the meetup where you and I met.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. That's where I met
You
Cody
guys
at
met
too.
there? That's crazy.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I was walking around there. I was having a rough day though because of work, so I didn't really connect with people the way I wanted to.
Still showed up though.
44714 FIG Avenue. That's a Lancaster, Lancaster, California.
All right. Beauty of Google, right? A lot of times you just type in the address, you don't have to worry about the rest of it. All right, 44714 Fig Avenue. All right, so let's do our Zillow look real quick. So we got a Zestimate of 319. Okay, so that's one number we're putting down. All right, and I'm gonna pop that out. We got a Redfin's estimate of 362. Okay. Let's do a prop wire real quick. Of course, I didn't copy that one. Darn it. All right. 44714 Fig. 44714 Fig Ave. We got a 304 from PropWire. This is what I was trying to show you all before. It's really pretty good data on that end, right? Usually. Also, you have comps on here. Well, I'm not going to log into that. We're not going to worry about PropStream today. No time. So PropWire said 304. Okay. So I've got a 319, a 304, and a 362. You know what? Let's go look one more. Since there's some variance there, guys, I'm going to go get that. I'm going to go grab that, the realtor.com number too.
Recently sold.
Hold on. The real estimate 393. Okay, you see this, guys? Look at what we're looking at right here. Okay, we've got, hold on, let me go, where's 2003 May and the other prediction, where it's going, let's see, sorry, January. So we got 3 valuation sources right there on one website: 429, 427, and 393. You see how this can get out of hand a little bit, right? So we're going to go with our majors. So we're going to say 319, 362, and CoreLogic is really realtor.com. So we're going to say CoreLogic says right now it's 393. Okay. So that's a pretty wide range. All right. But that's, if I were to average those out, where are we at? About 350-ish on there between those three, 340 on those three. Okay. So I'm gonna do my quick look numbers 340. Okay. Quick look's 340. Let's go look, and I go to Redfin, and I'm gonna scroll down, and let's see here. Let me take a look. Actually, let me go take a look at my property. I got no pictures. Is it this house right here?
You gotta no, yeah, you gotta scroll to the left a little bit to really see it.
That okay.
Hidden by a tree. Yeah, get to the left more.
Oh, it's more. It's like here.
Yeah, like right there.
That one right there that I'm wiggling on.
No, you were on it. Someone blocked by a tree. Go back. I'm sorry.
Okay.
To the right. Yeah. And you probably
Okay.
start seeing it right there.
Like, where's the okay? Oh, it's that one. It's in
There
there. Okay. That guy in there. All right. Got it. No, that's gonna make it tough. Okay, so let's see. No pictures. You condition. Do you know the condition inside?
No, I have a meeting with the seller next week to see the inside. She claims it's good, but you know how that goes.
Yeah, when you say good condition, how deep do you ask on the questions? You're asking like
She recently replaced the AC about a year ago. She said that that she replaced the cabinets about like 5 years ago before the. I see. I don't even know all that yet. I guess it's gonna be better when I get pictures.
You got to think like this. Think like, what would you ask if you could never see pictures, so you got a good idea of seeing the house? Those are the questions you need to ask. And don't be afraid to have a longer conversation with the seller about that and be like, so what color's the cabinet? Okay, what kind of floor do you got? Oh, how old? When did you put it in? Right? Because good to you could good to her. I mean, I've seen people with green carpets with guys, and you know, gold. Anyways, I'm not gonna get into that, but you get the idea. Good is not doesn't mean anything, and you can't like. Here's the deal: you're gonna go see the house anyway, so that's good. You got an appointment. You're gonna walk through this property, okay? But just because you're going doesn't mean you can't get more information ahead of time. Because what if she's like, it sounds like terrible, and the number's off, and you're like, oh man, like, do I even want to go to that house?
Yeah.
Sometimes you change your mind when you have an idea. So, anyways, okay, so it sounds like it's in decent shape. Does it sound like maybe like 2012 remodeled shape? Does it sound like?
Maybe slight, like the way the conversation was, like slightly, like maybe she did some slight changes since like 2000s, early 2000s.
Okay, so you're gonna have a dated property that's gonna, at the very least, probably gonna need some cosmetic updating, right?
Big time, I'm assuming, yeah.
So then you can kind of look that now you have enough information to kind of at least play with it before you waste your time driving to the house. If it turns out to be a waste of time, what's her offer rate? Never mind. You don't have to say that. We're on a meeting with the bunch. We'll keep that to yourself. That's fine. Sorry. Okay. So let's see.
Well, actually, what's funny about it is she wanted to be at 340.
Oh,
okay. That's funny.
Yeah. So she wants full market value. Maybe she might be more than it's worth. Maybe, but That house is really tough to see. It kind of, this doesn't look much like a comparable here, to be honest. So let's see. Okay, I'm gonna have to go into the map on this. Let me see.
House does have a huge backyard, but it's definitely in rough shape. Like I pulled up I pulled up Instant Street View and went to the back, and it's in the alleyway in the back. And you've got a huge backyard back there. She even stated that, but it's all like dead grass, and usually that's what you get out here.
Okay, yeah, I mean, if typical, then the good news is you get to compare it, right? Once you see it compared to the other houses, right?
Yeah.
Or once you get a picture of it or a good description.
You can build a tiny home for free now in California.
No, they don't.
That's a lot of value.
All right, let's see here. Yeah, so one of my partners actually is here hanging out today, and he just brought up that, obviously California ADUs can go anywhere if there's space for them. So bigger lot does have a little more value if you can possibly
Yeah.
put a secondary unit on it. Okay. I just want to throw that out there. But yeah, so let's see. This one looks it's all personal style, I guess, but I don't know. To me, this looks
And
pretty
these-
good.
Quick little history on these. Well, actually, the history is they're historic homes because they're by the boulevard, which out where I live, they call the boulevard like a historic town of Lancaster, which, it doesn't have much history behind it, but I think that's why the property values are higher because they're next to main shopping centers, etc.
Okay. Well, yeah, and historic neighborhood doesn't have to mean the interior has to be historic, right?
Right, in some way, shape, or form.
I know there's a character thing to it. I get that, but don't let it fool you. People like modern interiors, or even if it's an older house, unless you're better off to go more modern or not modern, but you know what I mean. You're better off to go, at least the colors, man. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but again, every area is subjective, and this area probably way better than I'm going to know it, right? That's going to be helpful too. You're only going to know what you know, but generally speaking, keeping it simple, like we talked about before I started I have a hard time keeping things simple, by the way, guys. So here's the thing. As we got into it, we already figured out the average value is about 350 probably in there, right? With some pluses or minuses. Condition wise, this one's probably in a lot better shape than the other one. From the sound of it, this one's dated, but it's also kind of nice too at the same time, right? It feels kind of like it should, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But there's no such thing as perfect, but we got an idea. What was the square footage on the subject? It was
It's about 1,000, yeah, like 1,000.
about the same as this one. Yeah, right there. So yeah, she wants 340 for it. What strategy are you going into it with?
I'm also an agent, so I may end up listing it. However, I'm kind of going to gauge where she wants to be once we have because I'm going to be walking it with my buyer as well. And he's
Okay.
already like, hey, I might just list the home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. At the end of the day, because you're an agent, because you have an opportunity to do that's different than some other people on the call, maybe, right? Because for me, that's, if I go to a local property nearby, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go in and say, look, this is the different ways we can get you out of this house. Which one makes the most sense for you?
Right. And I usually do like net listing, with
Okay.
this. Yeah.
Okay. So for those that don't know, a net listing is like kind of like an ovation where you're getting whatever you get over a certain price. So,
Right.
So, yeah, so that's good. Okay. So yeah, just from a glance in here, I'm saying, because there's this one too, 370, but this one, you can see this one, the kind of ceilings are kind of funky. They got the old plaster ceiling still,
Oh yeah, it's old.
but that's what I'm talking about, like historic inside, right? But they've cleaned up, they got the nice, they've at some point they upgraded the cabinets and the countertops. Flooring looks
Like
nice.
brand new appliance too in there.
Flooring looks nice. Backyard is nothing to shake at. There's a garage. So there's that right there's probably
Adds value. That could be
yeah. 20,000 maybe if it's a good garage.
can also be an ADU. I know that some agents we have a lot of homes like that where there's a garage in the backyard like that, and they market it as an ADU and actually get the price sold higher.
Well, look at this. Look, I mean, look, you can see there's one right there. Boom, boom. That one doesn't have one. So you got to pay attention to those things. Those are the adjustments, right?
Yeah.
Now this even looks like it has a, well, shoot, man, you got this garage. I mean, again, if we go look at this garage, right? We got 15,000 for the garage. I don't know what that is, but it looks like this could be a massive 80, and this could be a full blown, with parking, ADU. So if I'm going back over here and I'm going back and looking at that one that I was just seeing, if you can't tell from pictures, so that one has a garage too, right? If you can't tell from the photos, you can always go look at the map, satellite it out and zoom in. Right. So yeah, you get those details, because if you're comparing it, I would give 30 grand. I would give 25. I'd give 25,000 for that garage on that house.
Yeah.
So add 25,000, all other things considered. It's not like you got a deal, man. You just got to figure out what it's going to be. It's going to be a listing, or it's not going to be a deal. Like, it doesn't sound like there's going to be much there, but a listing, to be honest, though.
Yeah. I assume so. And that's what gives me power being an agent as well. So
yeah. And guys, one note too, don't try to ever talk anybody into negotiating on I just want to say this when we're talking so much about value here and offers. Negotiating with the seller does not mean talking them into selling their house for less because you're trying to trick them into what it's worth. Just want to say that. Okay. Value is value. Lowest acceptable. Negotiating on the offer is saying, what do you want? What's most important to you? And then figuring out what you can pay. And you don't go telling, if you think the house is worth 400, you don't tell them you think it's only worth 3. That is not how negotiating works in this. That's actually taking advantage of somebody who doesn't understand what you understand. Right?
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, I think, was that helpful? Do you, as far as this property is concerned?
big time. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Well,
That provision in California just makes anything with a big lot.
I think we're good then, guys. I think we're gonna wrap it up for today, and I'll get a little calculator put together today. Alex, I'll send it over. Just you'll be able to have it. You'll be able to send it out by tomorrow morning. Make it a little simple one.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. That would be really helpful for all of us.
Okay. So, and keep it simple, guys. Just because a calculator has more fields on it, more buttons and calculations on it, does not make it better.
Right. Keep it simple is really important in this.
100%. Okay. So, all right. Well, hey, thanks for having me, guys. If anybody has any more questions, you know where to find me. You can,
Awesome.
Alex, you can share my email if you want to.
Awesome.
With the. All right.
Thanks for sharing.
Appreciate it, Chris.
Chris.
Thanks
All
so
right,
much.
guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye. Have a good rest of your weekend.
Awesome. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your
Bye now.
weekend.